On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with Danny Rosin, and he tells us how trust is the currency of the new economy and how you can tap into your inner hero. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. This time, I welcome back a guest that was with me very early on in the show, the co-president of Brand Fuel, Danny Rosin. Danny, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kirby. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. One of the most watched episodes of all time, so I knew, this is like the sequel, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me jump right in with some questions. Because I know, one of the things that you are all about is making a difference in your community and in the community at large. And I saw last year, I got to see Bert Jacobs, who's from Life is Good. He said that, I loved what he said. He said, for-profit businesses are the best hope for real change in the world. And I don't know that that's how everybody always thinks, and I thought that was cool. Obviously, you're involved with both for-profit and not-for-profit. What do you think of Bert's assessment?
Bert. I love your brand, Bert, but I bet a lot of nonprofits probably took offense to that statement. But what I think Bert's trying to say is that for-profits that serve stakeholders before serving shareholders, those are the organizations that are truly affecting positive change in the world. And I think if we were looking into the crystal ball of business, our friend Stan Phelps would probably say something like, I think he says, purpose will be the driver of business in the coming years.
Right.
So businesses looking at both profit and purpose maximization. So purpose and values, not the widgets that we're making and selling. Those are the things that are at the core of an organization's identity. So, and you know my fantasy, right, Kirby? Do you know my fantasy?
I'm so disturbed to ask, but please tell me.
Let me phrase it better. My business fantasy. My business fantasy is that philanthropy becomes the future of marketing. So think about it. Philanthropy is the future of marketing. And so if you want to relate it to a story in our industry, you think about BIC and the Wounded Warrior Project. If people buy select products in BIC's line, they're giving a certain amount of dollars to the Wounded Warrior Project every single year. And you look at the stats on that, this year alone, over $200,000 will go into the Wounded Warrior Project. And that's not, to me, the best part necessarily. I think the best part is that BIC is going to sell more product, with this effort. And at its core, yes, they're helping wounded warriors that are fighting for our freedom, and that should be enough. But they're getting great press. They're selling more product. And so when Bert's saying that, I think, I can relate it to some of our customers. And I think about a stat that I share with them if they ask if they should be involved in community efforts. And what we tell them is that this 86% of consumers, they're likely to switch to a new brand, with the assumption that price and quality are equal if that new brand is associated with a good cause. And so in our highly commoditized Me Too promotional products industry, the freaking bells should be going off, right? We should be jumping up and down. So I think suppliers could be giving distributors more to talk about, more than the best price for a product. So why not connect selling to what I think we've talked about, I call brand good, doing good with your brand. And ultimately, I think cause marketing should be a competitive strategy.
Yeah, one of the things I took about it, and I took one line out of his whole speech, and so I don't think it was a shot at not-for-profits. But the idea that I think you dug into is that he was saying, as businesses, we don't have to just be about profit. We can be about purpose. And for me, that was an interesting statement, because I was at a giant conference where profit was definitely what everyone was talking about. So it was a good shift. So in a recent talk that I saw online that you gave, you talked about collaboration. And, I think some people there are so many buzzwords. I think collaboration is one of those that can be viewed as just a buzzword. But it feels like you think it's a great way to create a greater impact. Am I right on that? And why?
Yeah. So the talk, if you want to watch it, it's online at Creative Mornings, Raleigh or RDU. It's similar to a TED Talk. And check that out if you want the full skinny and you get a chance to see Band Together's executive director, Matt Strickland. He actually throws me into the air and this thing we do this big cheer.
That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. So, I wish the word collaboration wasn't so buzzwordy. I mean, it's when collaboration happens, so does trust and learning and growth. And, it provides us all with an opportunity to engage markets. It allows us to build connection and community. And I think in the business sense and the nonprofit sense, I mean, we empower our teams to more effectively deliver on the promises that we make. At Brand Fuel, I have a business partner. And, I think about collaboration every single day because I know we would be nowhere when Robert and I have to go through this. It's painstaking stuff sometimes. And we go through this every single day. We expand ourselves. We expand our company. And like I said, it's hard, but it's rewarding. And in that talk for Creative Mornings, I said the currency of the new economy is trust. So think about that. The currency of the new economy is trust. Yeah. Learning the ability to create an openness with organizations and trusting each other is way more valuable to the community or your business than your ability to go alone. And Promo Kitchen, which you and I are both a part of, I think about that organization in our market, for example. That's a place where you can go and you can have really open dialogues, really collaborative environment. But I think the question remains, it's a buzzword, but how do we collaborate effectively? And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of that talk, what we said. The takeaways were, include more people in your decision-making process. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but if you give it a chance and you watch how people feel after you've included them in your inner circle, it's pretty impressive. We talked about vulnerability, and we talked about being vulnerable first. So try the next time you're out in a networking event, try sharing a weakness that you have or that your organization has and see what happens with strangers. Because I believe that people want to help. I believe that they'll open back up to you. And being open, we talked about trust, it builds trust. And I think for everyone, that's the holy grail. You have to be willing to be able to be taught. That's a hard thing for leaders a lot of times. And so and for me, that means listening better. I think each of us needs to be successful in the world. And as we have this need or desire to be successful. But the truth is that if you just look around you, the thing that's going to help you be successful is probably sitting right next to you. So you have to cast aside judgment. You have to care. You have to invite people to have a better relationship with you. You have to connect with them. And going back to the cause stuff, you have to serve. You have to help each other out. And I think the last thing I would end with is how we ended that Creative Mornings presentation. We talked about this awesome African proverb. It goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So there you go.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. And there's some lessons in there. You're right. It's counterintuitive, a few of the things you said, to the way that, you want to make good decisions, invite more people right away. I'm like, So, no, that's good. I like it when things press you outside of your comfort zone. One of the things I think a lot of people here, leave the world a better place than you found it, leave your community a better place than you found it. And they want to do that. They're like, okay, yeah, I want to do it, but I don't really know where to start. So what are some kind of tips? What are some things that you could say to somebody who's like, I want to give back, but I don't know where to go?
Yeah, I think to your point, Kirby, we all crave to have deeper meaning in our lives, right?
Yeah.
We want to find out why we're here, which is the big picture. We want to find our inner hero, to find that thing that lights us up. And maybe you find that thing that lights you up at work, which if it does, tremendous, I bow down. That's awesome. But I think maybe you need to look beyond the 9 to 5. And so I would go out and find an organization that tugs at your heartstrings, and you can go online to organizations like Charity Navigator, GuideStar, and you can find resources there that will allow you to find the things that tug at your heartstrings. I would suggest you find a friend, because oftentimes you won't do it alone, and then just go volunteer. I said this on the last show. I think there are often more leadership and character building opportunities in the nonprofit sector than in the for-profit sector.
Totally.
And so when I think about that as a business owner and a manager of people at Brand Fuel, we allow our employees paid time off to volunteer for that reason. They gain new skills. They develop stronger relationships in our community. And that's good for them, but it's also really good for our brand.
Yeah.
And so I think from the leadership standpoint, if you're thinking about it from being a leader of an organization or even a department, the question might be, can you help your people leave this world a better place? And I think a lot of people would say it's your responsibility as a leader to do that. I would say it's your privilege to provide opportunities to lead your teams to a more purposeful place, because, and I think I said this before, we spend 50% of our waking life at work. I mean, so our conscience is telling us to do good things in the business, the community, and so we need to stop being slacktivists. We need to do it and become activists. And if we do, what happens? At the corporate level, we end up helping our organizations with reducing client and employee attrition, increasing satisfaction and loyalty, and we promote a positive word of mouth about our brand. And so I think about just the industry that we're in. How can someone get involved at that level? So maybe it's not, saving puppy dogs and children, but it might be within your industry. And so get involved in your American Marketing Association. Get involved in PPAI or your regionals on the volunteer level. There's some fantastic people you'll meet, some skills you'll get. Be a mentor at Promo Kitchen, right? These are great outlets, so stop talking about it. Stop feeling so guilty. Make some good things happen. I think the world is counting on you.
Yeah, I think it boils down to, if you want to do it, pick a lane and take action.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, that's really good. All right,
Grab
Danny.
the bull by the horns.
That's right. All right, you've answered my 3 questions. Give everybody a chance to ask me one. What do you got for me, bud?
All right, here we go. I've been thinking about this. We live in the age of distraction. Think about all these devices and everything around us, bells and whistles going off, people knocking on our door. So, I think it poses a threat. The age of distraction poses a threat to productivity and culture. And my question is it possible to thrive with all these distractions? And if so, what are Kirby's recommendations on how to get past all the noise?
Yeah. To your point, the age of distraction, I think to you and I, it's the age of distraction. It's more and more just becoming reality. It's the age of distraction it's us old guys, right? But I think, in answer to your question, I think there's 2 ways that pop into my head where you have an impact, and quite frankly, maybe even have a bigger impact than you did before. And number 1 is purpose, and number 2 is present. And what I mean by that is, it is so easy to just meander around social media and spend hours on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and do nothing. On the other hand, if you are intentional about that time, and that's what I really try to be, is like, okay, when I'm on a social media, I'm doing it in a way where I'm trying to push out good, whether I'm pushing out content, whether I'm just reaching out and saying happy birthday to somebody who I quite frankly wouldn't have known it was their birthday anyway. That's a little piece of good that I'm purposefully pushing out into the world. And I think if you do whatever you're doing there through social media purposefully, you can actually scale. You can actually scale those efforts where you couldn't have done that in the past. So if you're purposeful, I think that's really important. And the other piece is present. And what I mean by that is simply to be present with whatever you're doing right then, you're present in that moment. And so if you're with your wife at dinner, be present with your wife at dinner. Don't be looking at the scores, right? But the same is with a client. Whatever you're doing, just be all in that moment to do that. So if you're on your weekend and you're with your family, be there. If you're at work, be there. Don't be always constantly looking at your phone. That's when it's a distraction. if that makes any sense. I mean, candidly, Danny, my phone rang 2 or 3 times on my hip while we've been talking. If you notice, I didn't pick it up. And so I think that sometimes,
Thank you.
Yeah, right. And I think that's really where it becomes like, gosh, that's where the distraction becomes a problem, is when you're not present in that moment. So I guess I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's great alliterative advice. Yeah, present and purpose.
Yeah,
that's right. Good. Well done.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for being a part of Delivering Marketing Joy again. I really do appreciate it, and we'll have to do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kirby.
All right, that wraps up another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching, but wait! Can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done it already, the way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe!